I am Carrie, and I am 68 years old. On my hand, I no longer wear a wedding ring, but I have the calluses from a life of self-reliance and a heart that still warms whenever my son calls. My little house in Stockton, California is tidy and sunlit, filled with books I have read and photographs I still treasure. I was a bookkeeper for 40 years, so I know the weight of a number and the quiet satisfaction of a column that adds up perfectly. My greatest pride is Nathan, my only son. He is 42, a successful software developer living up in Seattle. We talk every Sunday, and I hang on every word about his projects and his life, even when I do not understand the technical details. When he told me he and Amber were coming for a long weekend visit this week, I spent 2 days cleaning and baking his favorite apple pie, the one with the crumb topping his father David loved. The house smelled of cinnamon and nutmeg, and a hope so fragile I almost did not dare name it. Dinner that first night started like a beautiful dream. Amber, with her perfect blonde highlights and her warm smile, complimented my china, the simple white set David and I bought for our 25th anniversary. Nathan ate 2 helpings of my pot roast, the way he used to as a teenager, and told a funny story about a work trip. I felt a warmth in my chest I had not felt in years, the feeling of my small family circle being complete. But then, over slices of warm pie and scoops of vanilla ice cream, my son put down his fork. He looked down at his plate, then at me, and I saw a nervous tension in his jaw I had not noticed before. "Mom," he said, his voice too casual, too light. "I just want to check in. You're managing that $350,000 investment. Okay, right? The market's been a little volatile lately, and I just want to be sure it's in something safe." I stared at him, my own fork frozen midway to my mouth. The sweet taste of apple turned to dust on my tongue. "Nathan, what on earth are you talking about? What $350,000? The cozy room turned to ice in an instant. The gentle hum of the refrigerator seemed to roar. The smile fell from my son's face, replaced by a bewildered frown. His eyes, those familiar hazel eyes, darted across the table to his wife. And my daughter-in-law, Amber, who had been praising the flakiness of my pie crust just a moment before, went bone white. The color drained from her face so completely it was as if someone had pulled a plug. She looked like she had seen a ghost, or worse, like she was becoming one. Before I tell you what happened in the next 30 minutes, the 30 minutes that shattered my world and rebuilt it from the ground up, I would love to know where you are in the world right now listening to my story. If you can feel the chill that just ran down my spine, that feeling of the rug being pulled out from under you in your own safe space, please let me know by giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Your support truly helps me continue to share these truths. Now let's go back to that dining room, to the moment the floor fell away. The silence that followed my question was so thick and heavy, I could hear the faint tick-tick-tick of the old regulator clock in the hallway, a sound usually lost in the background. Nathan blinked slowly, his brow furrowed in pure, unadulterated confusion. It was the look he used to get as a boy, when a math problem would not solve. "Mom, come on. Don't do this. The money. The $350,000 I transferred to you over the last 6 months for safekeeping and conservative investment. We talked about this. You said it was a good idea." My mind was a blank white sheet of paper, the kind I used for ledger entries. There was nothing written on it about this. No memory, no footnote, no faint pencil mark. Nathaniel James. I said, using his full name the way I did when he was in serious trouble. "We did not talk about this. I have never in my entire life discussed $350,000 with you, ever." Amber finally made a sound, a soft, distressed gasp that seemed to catch in her throat. She reached over and placed a perfectly manicured hand on Nathan's forearm, a gesture meant to calm, but one that now seemed possessive, controlling. "Honey, it's okay. Maybe she just forgot. It was a lot of details, the stress of living alone, or—" She trailed off, her wide blue eyes filled with a performative liquid concern that made my stomach turn over. They were trying to write me a part, and the part was confused elderly mother. I did not forget. I said, my voice low and steady. It was my bookkeeper voice, the one I used when a client's receipts did not match their claims. It was a voice of calm authority I had earned over 4 decades. Nathan, looking increasingly frustrated and deeply embarrassed, as if I were causing a scene, pulled out his phone from his pocket. His movements were sharp, annoyed. "Mom, look. Just look. Here are the emails. From you." He thrust the phone toward me. My hand was steady as I took it. I saw my name in the sender field. Carrie Heller. But the email address was carrie.heller@gmail.com. I have never had a Gmail account in my life. I have used the same carrie.heller@yahoo.com address since the dawn of email. A cold trickle of dread started at the base of my skull. The emails were written in a friendly, familiar tone, thanking him for his trust, discussing the merits of municipal bond funds versus money market accounts, confirming receipt of funds in batches of 50 and 100,000. They even mentioned his father, my late husband David, and how he would be so proud of Nathan's smart, forward-thinking planning. It was a chilling, intimate forgery. Scrolling further with a numb finger, he showed me PDFs of bank statements. They looked impeccably real with the official logos and fonts of his bank, and one I did not recognize. They showed electronic transfers from his joint account with Amber to an account under the name Carrie Heller at a different institution. The dates corresponded with the emails. My blood ran cold, not with fear, but with a terrifying clarity. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding. This was a construction, a meticulously built set piece designed to look real from every angle. Amber started to cry, then delicate, convincing tears that traced down her pale cheeks. "Carrie, we only wanted to help. We were worried about you being all alone out here managing everything. We thought putting the money with you in your name would take the pressure off. It was for your benefit, too. Maybe someone took advantage of you. Someone online." The implication hung in the air between us, ugly and sharp as a razor. My own son was looking at me not with anger, but with a dawning, horrified pity. He believed the paper. He believed the pixels on the screen. He was starting to doubt the soundness of my mind, the reliability of my memory. The feeling that rose in me then wasn't just hurt. It was a tectonic shift, the ground of our entire relationship, the trust built over 42 years, cracking wide open beneath my feet, threatening to swallow me whole. I placed his phone carefully, precisely back on the tablecloth, aligning it with the edge of the placemat. I did not receive this money. I did not send these emails. And I am not confused. I stood up, my knees feeling weak, but my spine straight as an iron rod. "I think you both should leave now." The words hung in the fragrant air, a sentence that changed everything. The heavy front door clicked shut behind them, the sound final as a judge's gavel. I was left alone in the sudden suffocating silence, the ghost of apple pie and pot roast still clinging to the air. I did not cry. The tears felt like a luxury, a reaction for a simpler kind of hurt. This was beyond tears. I moved through my living room like a ghost myself, mechanically clearing the beautiful plates that now felt tainted, washing each piece by hand in water, so hot it scalded my fingers, needing to feel a clean, sharp pain. I slept fitfully, if at all. The next morning, just after 8, Nathan called. His voice was strained, distant, the voice you use with a difficult client or a stranger causing a problem. "Mom, we need to figure this out. Amber is devastated. She was up all night crying. She was only trying to protect our family's assets to plan for the future. You need to go through your records, your files very carefully. Maybe you set up a new account online and forgot the password. It happens." He took a breath. We should maybe think about having you see someone. Dr. Evans in the city, maybe. A neurologist. Just for a baseline to rule anything out." Each word was a needle carefully placed, designed to inflate the narrative of my decline. But the pain quickly crystallized into something else, a fierce, cold, and utterly focused determination. They were trying to box me into the role of a feeble, forgetful old woman, a role I had never played and would not start now. I went to my home office, a small, sunlit nook off the kitchen with filing cabinets older than Nathan. I pulled every single statement, every check register, every deposit slip, every tax return from the last 3 years. I am a bookkeeper. I keep records. I spread them out on my massive dining table, the same table where we had just shared a meal, covering the cherry wood with a mosaic of numbers and dates. I worked for hours cross-referencing, adding, subtracting. Nothing. No mysterious deposits of $50,000 or $100,000. No new account numbers. My personal ledger was clean, precise, and it shouted the truth in black and white and endless columns. I needed an ally, someone who spoke the language of facts and law. I called Kyle, my friend of 40 years, a retired corporate attorney who had handled David's estate. I told him everything, my voice shaking only once when I described the pity in Nathan's eyes. He listened without a single interruption. "Carrie," he said when I finished, his tone gravely serious, "this is not forgetfulness. This is premeditated fraud. Do not engage with them further without documentation. You are no longer defending yourself to them. You are building a case. You are not collecting evidence for them. You are collecting evidence against them." His words were a lifeline thrown to a woman drowning in betrayal. Then, like a bolt, I remembered something. Months ago, maybe last fall, Amber had called me on a weekday afternoon. We had chatted about nothing, and then she had asked so sweetly, "Carrie, what was your maiden name, and what was the name of the very first bank you ever used? I'm making one of those beautiful framed family trees for Nathan for Christmas with little details." I had thought it was a touching gesture. I had told her. Miller, and it was First Farmers Trust, though it had been bought out decades ago. I had given her without a second thought 2 common security verification answers. I had handed her the keys. Later that same day, my neighbor Diane, a spry woman in her 70s who has lived next door for 30 years, came over with a tuna casserole, a silent, wordless show of support after seeing the tense departure the night before. We sat at my kitchen island. "Carrie," she said hesitantly, stirring her tea, "I didn't want to stir the pot, but it's been itching at me. Maybe 3-4 months back I saw a car like Amber's, that sleek silver European thing, parked down the street on a Tuesday afternoon. You were at your garden club. A woman who looked an awful lot like her with those big designer sunglasses and a silk scarf over her hair was not just at your mailbox, but she was talking to Pete, our mailman, for a good 5 minutes. I figured she was maybe your daughter-in-law getting your mail for you because you were away. It didn't seem my business." Mail forwarding, identity verification. Kyle's suspicion of a fraudulently opened bank account now seemed not just likely, but certain. We had a plan, gather, document, and wait. But the pressure tightened like a vice when Nathan called again 2 days later. His tone was flat final. "Amber and I will be there on Saturday, at noon, with our lawyer. We have a proposal to resolve this peacefully for everyone's sake. It's the best way forward." The gauntlet had been thrown. The battlefield was my own living room. I was no longer just a mother. I was preparing for war. Saturday arrived heavy and gray, the sky a sheet of low cloud that seemed to press down on my little house. Kyle came over early, looking every bit the seasoned advocate in a worn tweed jacket and polished shoes. He reviewed my meticulous files, Diane's neatly written and signed statement, and nodded grimly. "You're ready, Carrie. Remember, you hold the truth. They hold a fiction. Fictions are fragile." Precisely at noon they arrived, Nathan looking pale and tense, his shoulders hunched as if against a blow. Amber perfectly dressed in a cashmere sweater and slacks, but her eyes were darting, unable to settle. A young, slick-haired man in an excessively expensive suit followed them, carrying a thin leather portfolio. Their lawyer, a Mr. Dalton. We sat in my formal living room, the room that had once held only love and holiday gatherings, and the quiet comfort of family. The young lawyer did the talking. He spoke in a smooth, patronizing tone about unfortunate confusion, age-related financial management concerns, and the desire to avoid familial embarrassment and costly legal strife. Then he laid out their generous, family-oriented solution. I would sign a notarized affidavit acknowledging receipt of the $350,000 for safekeeping and investment management. In a show of family mercy, Nathan would not pursue civil or criminal action for the currently misplaced funds. However, to ensure my future financial security and protect the asset from any future confusion or predation, I would simultaneously sign a quitclaim deed transferring the title of my house free and clear, the one David and I paid off 20 years ago, to Nathan and Amber. My house, the one with the garden David planted, the one where I brought Nathan home from the hospital, the one that was my anchor, my only real equity in the world. Amber nodded along her face, a mask of sympathetic concern. "We just want to take care of you, Carrie. This way the house stays in the family, and you never have to worry about taxes or upkeep again. We can even help you find a lovely assisted living community." I let them finish. I let the outrageous, predatory proposal hang in the air, watching my son's face. He was studying the pattern on my rug, unable to meet my eyes. Then I looked at Kyle and gave a small, firm nod. He opened his briefcase. I spoke, my voice clear and calm in the quiet, tense room. "I will not be signing anything today." I took the first set of documents from Kyle. "What I will do is show you what actually happened." I handed Nathan my real original bank statements with highlighted lines and yellow sticky notes showing the consistent, modest balance with no large deposits for the past year. I gave him the notarized letter from the postmaster detailing the fraudulent change of address form filed under my name, requesting mail be forwarded to a P.O. box in Sacramento for a 90-day period. I showed him Diane's signed and witnessed affidavit describing the woman matching Amber's description at my mailbox. Finally, Kyle presented a preliminary analysis from a forensic IT specialist he trusted, tracing the fake Gmail account's creation to an IP address registered to a commercial hub in Seattle, not from my home IP in Stockton. As each piece of irrefutable paper and fact evidence landed on the coffee table with a soft thud, Amber's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. The sympathetic mask melted into twitching panic. This is insane," she sputtered, her voice rising an octave. "These could be forgeries. That old woman next door is clearly lying. I was trying to help Nathan tell them." But her voice had become shrill, her story unraveling like a cheap sweater. Nathan's face was a storm of conflicting emotions, confusion, dawning horror, a sickening realization of betrayal. He looked from my rock-solid, mundane evidence, the kind of evidence I had built my career on, to his wife's desperate, shifting eyes. The young lawyer, Mr. Dalton, was suddenly silent, intensely, busy rearranging already perfectly arranged papers in his folder. I saved my final words for my son alone. I looked directly at him, my eyes full of a mother's profound pain, but also a woman's unbreakable steel. "I don't want your house, Nathan. I want my son back, and I want the truth." Mr. Dalton cleared his throat, finding his voice. "I think under the circumstances we need to adjourn this discussion immediately." After they left, the silence in the house was different. It was no longer suffocating, but hollowed out the silence after a storm has passed through, leaving wreckage, but also a strange, clear light. Nathan returned alone that evening, just as the last of the gray daylight faded. He let himself in with his old key, something he had not done in years. He looked utterly broken, aged a decade in an afternoon. He sat at my kitchen table, the same scarred oak spot where he'd done his multiplication homework a lifetime ago, put his head in his hands and wept great shuddering sobs that came from a place of deep shame. I let him cry. When the storm subsided, he confessed everything in a ragged, remorseful monologue. Amber had been slowly, insidiously poisoning him against me for over a year, painting me as financially naive, a potential victim of online scams, a liability. She had massive secret debts, credit cards, a personal loan from her lavish spending on clothes trips, and a failed attempt to start an influencer business. The plan he now saw with devastating clarity was to gaslight both him and me to create a problem that only their solution could fix. The goal was to get control of my house, sell it, and use the equity to pay off her debts. She had fabricated the entire narrative, exploiting his trust in her and his love for me. My heart broke for him all over again, but it broke from a place of strength, not fragility. "I am so sorry, Mom. I am so sorry. I believed her. I saw the emails. I thought you were slipping." I placed my hand over his, feeling the familiar shape of his knuckles. "I forgive you, Nathan," I said, and I meant it. "But trust is a ledger, son, and yours is deeply in the red. It will take consistent, honest deposits over a long time to rebuild that balance." I advised him, not as his mother now, but as a strategist, not to make any rash decisions, but to see a therapist to untangle the manipulation and to consult his own lawyer separate from Mr. Dalton. My battle was not with my wounded son. My battle was for the objective, provable truth. With Kyle's steady guidance, I filed formal criminal reports for fraud identity theft and attempted grand theft real property with the Stockton Police Department. Kyle, using his connections, also helped me file a detailed complaint with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, given the interstate nature of the email fraud and bank fraud. The next week, Nathan and I, a new and fragile alliance, met with the branch manager and the head of security at my longtime bank. Their internal investigation, launched by my official complaint, confirmed it within days. A woman posing as Carrie Heller with expertly forged California ID and Social Security card had opened a checking account at a branch in Sacramento. Security footage, though grainy, clearly showed a woman with Amber's exact height, build, posture, and that distinctive, expensive handbag she carried everywhere. Confronted with this footage, the postal fraud evidence, and the looming threat of federal charges, Amber's defenses collapsed completely. She confessed to everything in a tearful, self-pitying ramble to Nathan, caught on a recording he made on his phone on his lawyer's advice. She had hired a hacker on some dark web forum to create the fake email chain and the fraudulent bank statement PDFs. She had impersonated me at the post office and the bank using the information I had naively given her. The $350,000 had never moved. It was all a digital ghost, a fiction created to manipulate her husband and steal from his mother. In the weeks and months that followed the confrontation, a deep, soul-level exhaustion set in. I had won by any factual and legal measure, but I felt bruised in places I did not know I had. There were nights I lay awake in the too quiet dark, not replaying the confrontation, but questioning myself. Had I been too distant after David died? Had I unknowingly been judgmental of Amber, making her feel she needed to take what she wanted? Had I missed signs in my son's voice during those Sunday calls? Kyle and Diane were my anchors during this turbulent introspection. They came over for what became a standing Tuesday tea, listening without judgment over countless cups of Earl Grey, reminding me gently but firmly that I was the victim of a predator, plain and simple, and that predators are skilled at finding perceived vulnerabilities to exploit. Nathan moved into my guest room. It was strange and achingly familiar to have an adult son in the house again, to hear the shower run at a different time, to find his cereal bowl in the sink. We had awkward, stilted dinners that slowly over weeks became easier. He started therapy reluctantly at first, then with a growing commitment. We began to talk, really talk, not the surface-level Sunday chat about work and weather. He learned about the quiet loneliness of my years since his father died, the empty spaces in the routines. I learned about the immense pressures he felt as a high earner, the hollow emptiness of his marriage to Amber, which he now saw was built on a foundation of her image and his usefulness. I consciously resumed my own life, but it was a life forever changed. I joined a memoir-writing book club at the local library, finding solace in other people's stories. I dug my hands deep into the cold winter soil of my garden, preparing the beds, planting new hardy perennials that promised to come back stronger and more vibrant each year. I took a senior computer security class at the community center and learned about password managers, two-factor authentication, and credit freezes. I became, in a way, a fortress, but one with a welcoming garden gate. The legal process moved with the slow, grinding inevitability of the system. Amber's hired lawyer, a different one from Mr. Dalton, negotiated a plea deal. She pled guilty to felony counts of computer fraud and aggravated identity theft. She received 5 years of probation, mandatory financial and psychological counseling, and a permanent restraining order keeping her away from me. She was also ordered to pay restitution to Nathan and me for all our legal fees and investigation costs. The phantom $350,000 debt vanished into the ether from whence it came, because it had never existed outside of a lie. One chilly evening in early spring, Nathan and I were in the kitchen cleaning up after a simple supper of soup and bread. He was washing the pot, his sleeves rolled up. "Mom," he said, his back to me, his voice slightly muffled by the running water. Would you Would you teach me how to make the apple pie the real way from scratch, not from a frozen shell or a box? I stood beside him at the counter, showing him how to measure the flour with a gentle hand, how to cut the cold butter into the flour until it resembled coarse meal, how to sprinkle in the ice water just until the dough held together. Our hands, so similar in shape and movement, worked side by side in the warm kitchen light. We were not just making a pie, we were rebuilding something piece by careful, honest piece. It would never be the simple, untested, taken-for-granted relationship of before. It was something more conscious, more deliberate, scarred, but stronger at the broken places. And in its own way, it was more real than anything that had come before. The final court notice came in the mail, a piece of official paper that closed a criminal case, but not the deeper, more personal chapter of my life. My life settled into a new, quieter, more intentional rhythm. Nathan found a small, light-filled apartment about a 20-minute drive away, a healthy distance that felt like breathing room for both of us. We have standing dinner dates every Thursday, no excuses. We have a new, unbreakable rule born from the ashes of the old trust. Any discussion involving money, property, or major decisions happens face-to-face and is followed by a confirming email from both parties. No assumptions. No third-party messages. Clarity is our new currency. I look around my home now, at the garden blooming with defiant resilience, at the bookshelves holding stories of survival and grace, at the familiar cracks in the ceiling I no longer just see but understand as part of the house's history. I think about what this ordeal taught me. I learned that love does not and should not require blind trust. True love can look the hard, ugly truth directly in the eye and demand answers, and can survive the asking. I learned that my own mind, trained over decades to seek accuracy and balance, was my greatest weapon and my surest shield. I learned that friendship is the family you consciously choose, and that in my darkest hour, my chosen family, Kyle with his legal mind, Diane with her compassionate eye, held me up when my blood family failed. Most importantly, I learned that my peace, my essential peace, was not something anyone could give to me or take from me. It was not a condition bestowed by circumstance. It was my own creation, forged in the fire of this ordeal, built brick by brick on the solid, unshakable ground of verifiable truth, and the courage to defend it even when the attackers came from my own hearth. I am not just a mother. I am not just a widow. I am Carrie. I am a bookkeeper who knows the power of a correct number. I am a gardener who understands that growth requires cutting back the dead wood. I am a survivor who found her voice when others tried to silence it with a convenient story. And my own story, I have come to see, is like a good pie crust made of layers, some sweet, some tough, all necessary and strongest, when the ingredients are honest and the handling is firm but careful. Now, I would love to hear from you. This was a story about truth and deception within a family. Have you ever had someone close to you, someone you loved, try to rewrite your reality to suit their own needs? How did you find your footing again in the world of facts, your experiences, your insights? They matter. Please share your thoughts in the comments below your stories. Help create a real community of understanding and strength. If this story resonated with you, if you felt that chilling recognition or that surge of determination for Carrie, please give this video a like. It means more than you know. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about finding truth, building boundaries, and discovering strength in the most unexpected places. And if you know someone who might need to hear this message, that it is never too late to stand up for what is real, please share this video with them. Thank you truly for listening, for being part of this important conversation. And remember, no matter what storm comes, you can always choose to be the calm, clear, unshakable eye at the center of it. Be well and be true.